So back here with Lance again, we're just sitting around talking about some stuff. I wanted to like maybe get into a couple more serious topics on this discussion. We were just kind of like waxing philosophical the last time. We were just talking about
the world,
very vague philosophical issues and stuff. This time I kind of wanted to ask a few questions. So there's this very politically charged climate that we're living in this country right now. There's a lot
Who's
of
gonna break first.
Like there's
No.
yes.
Okay, so yes, politically charged climate.
Right. Yeah. And it's very polarizing. I think as polarizing as a political climate could be in this country at this point in time. You have politicians on the far right, demagogues on the far right that are stirring up a lot of emotion.
Call them names.
Well, I mean, that's just being truthful with about how they're conducting their politics.
I'm kidding. Like demagogue is a bad word.
Right. Well, but like they're trying to stir up the animosity towards certain other groups of people, and they're kind of just like politicking through emotional appeals and stuff like that. But then again, also on the left, you have almost just as bad, like trying to stir up hate and resentment of other certain groups. Like the right is trying to stir up hate and resentment towards certain groups, and then the left is trying to stir up hate and resentment towards the right. And you have people that are like kind of center or slightly left of center or slightly right of center in the middle, going like, what the hell is everybody's big problem? So as far as like, I think we know what we know what a lot of the problems are with the right. But to get some conflict out of you this time, what specifically do you think some of the preachments against fascism that the left is kind of crying about? Do you think that maybe in some ways that their outcries against fascism is in a way an attempt to shut down free speech and be fascist in and of itself, or like what's your opinion of that?
Absolutely not.
And
I'm not just saying that to be conscientious, but I think that, well, first off, let me just kind of run through what crossed my mind as you were talking. I mean, the first thing you kind of said was there's the far right and the far left, and the far left is slinging just as much mud as the far right.
Yeah, for sure.
And for one, I would just like to illuminate the way I feel about our current political climate, and that is we are currently very far right. Wait, this is left. We're now currently very far right and kind of right of center. Like right of center is our left. Like if you go to any other country and look and like consider our politics from their perspectives, our Democrats, our crazy liberals are actually still their conservatives. Like,
well, it's because their thing is back. Like in the UK, it's backwards.
No.
Liberal is like our right-wingers.
Not into the meanings of words. Let's just assume conservative viewpoints.
You're talking about on the
liberal
spectrum.
Viewpoints. Yeah, I'm saying like our far right is like nutter butters to them, and our left is their conservative party, and their left party is like not even part of the conversation that we can have. And so whenever you're kind of thinking about right versus left, I think to me, whenever you say our left wing, it's still a very conservative branch of politics. And okay, so going on, you mentioned.
Well, I just to clarify something before you continue on with your point, though, is that you're saying that even our far left regressive SJW, social politics, social justice, freaking identity politics.
Well, now why is it left? I'm
asking though, is you're saying in countries you think are more normal, they're actually the normal lefties. Right?
Sure, why not? You know what?
Right.
Yeah, let's go.
They're the more.
If you understood me having said that, then that's what I said. So
well, no, I'm just that's why I'm trying to like understand like.
I'm saying like when you get the left and right, blue and red. Yeah. I forget which color is which. When you start painting people with those brushes, I I guess really all I'm trying to say is our left-leaning politics is still, to like most other countries,
It's more conservative in
it
their
is
view.
still more conservative than what they're dealing with. So whenever you think about, or whenever you might want to think that our liberals are liberal, they're still quite conservative in the grand scheme of things. Which, so that's just
Then we have the left that, like, it seems to be like they're trying. It seems like there's a lot of people on the left. Like, okay, so it seems with even the people on the right, like they may be there's a lot of crazy viewpoints on the right of the spectrum in this country, right? Like,
well, sure.
there's a lot of people in the GOP and conservatives that, like, you look at these people and you're like, seriously, like,
Yeah.
this is whacked out shit. But they're at least like willing. Like conservatives, it seems like they're more willing to have the conversation and debate and actually talk about things. But while on the other hand, like on the very far left, you have this cadre of individuals who like kind of are like, well, if you don't agree with everything that we like say, we don't even want to have the conversation with you. In fact, we don't want you to even speak.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I don't see that characterization. I don't see how you're getting that from.
Well, the
anything.
Berkeley riots.
I would have to look them up. I probably feel very strongly about them. I just don't know anything about them.
Do you know
okay, so
Milo Yiannopoulos is? But the guy was invited by students at Berkeley to come speak at the college, right?
sure.
So, and then the night of that he was supposed to speak, his speech got shut down. He wasn't allowed to speak because a group of Antifa with masks and sticks and beanbag shooters and torches lit fire to and destroyed pretty much all of downtown Berkeley. They were like flipping over cars and smashing shops up, and they were like destroying the very like property they were saying that they wanted to protect from people having to hear this type of speech. All they had to, but it was like, what's the point of destroying everything you say you're trying to protect? Why didn't they just, like, do you think that maybe they should have just let the guy talk to the people that actually asked him there to talk to them? I mean, what's your thought on that?
Well, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still trying to process because one, I mean,
Like, protesting's one thing, but they actually rioted, though. You know?
I mean, if enough people felt strongly enough about it that they didn't want it, and they were willing to do those sorts of things to prevent it, then
So all we have to do is feel strongly enough about a thing, and then it warrants us to destroy people's property to make that not happen.
One of my drunken list questions kind of came down to the idea of crime and punishment.
Right.
And kind of the jarring thought that I had recently that in order for a crime, and okay, we're going to start with crime, and it's obviously analogous to Milo coming and blah, blah, blahing, but
Talking. It's all he was going to do was talk.
right. But I had the thought that in order for a punishment to actually be a deterrent, it is very important that the deterrent is actually worse than the crime.
Okay.
Because if the deterrent is not worse than the crime, then, like the fact that it's not eye for an eye, it's like an eye for both eyes. Like it has to be worse. Like,
Right.
And a lot of times you see it I won't say a lot of times. I believe it to be true that if you researched, like, for example, how much America, find BP for the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, that they still made more money in spite of the fine. Or when we fine the banks for messing up their books or whatever, the fine that we apply to them is still lower than what they actually made by doing the bad shit. So in the nature of, maybe they did make themselves known that they didn't want Milo to come, right? Like, we don't know. And, obviously, we weren't both in downtown Berkeley. There may
No.
have been, like, one window that got smashed and one car that got flipped over. And there also very well could have been, I mean, obviously I am saying that there could have been people there to exacerbate the issue. But
For sure.
we don't really know we only know what the media told us, right? So, I mean, it probably was bad. But at some point there was a breakdown of communications where there was a group of people, hopefully, saying, we don't want Milo anywhere near our shit. We don't want him here. And there was another group who said, no, Milo's coming in either way.
Well, we asked him here, and we're students too. That's basically what the argument was.
So, I mean, so that's what it was. Like, one group of students wanted him to come.
And then there was a very progressive group that didn't want him there and basically wanted to shut down the whole thing and didn't want, free speech to take place there.
Well, I mean, you say they didn't want free speech to take place there. I mean, isn't there a point where somebody's speech, I mean, for one, that free speech only matters if Berkeley is a state entity doing state things. I mean, the idea of free speech isn't that I can go to somebody's house and tell them that they're ugly. The idea of free speech is that the government can't come along and say, you can't say these things. I don't really feel comfortable tying in the whole Berkeley thing to free speech because
Well, it is. I mean-
well, no, it isn't, because free speech is a government concept. Like,
Well, all it is saying the
having-
government can't abridge your right to it.
right.
That's what the protection of free speech is.
But isn't Berkeley
And it-
private in some way?
And the
Like
administrators of the school agreed to allow these students to invite him there, and
but they're
they were
still
okay with
not
it.
the U.S. government. That's
The
my
student,
point.
but that's like the lunatics running the asylum, though. You can't. The students wanted him there, and then some other group of students didn't. So they employed thugs to come and destroy shit and set fire to things to dissuade people from being allowed to speak.
Okay,
Do you think that that's okay, though? Is what I'm saying.
Well, no, I don't think that's okay, but I still think that
Hey,
it
at least we agree
requires-
on something.
I think that it requires kind of glossing over the fact that somebody probably noticed the lead up to that event. Like the shooting in Florida a
It
couple
was
weeks
planned,
ago.
for sure.
The shooting in Florida a couple weeks ago, not to get into that,
Oof.
but just to
that's
use it
another-
as an example, a lot of people have kind of come along and said, oh, well, they knew these kids were dangerous. Look at, like, here's the list of police reports against these kids or whatever. And verify these facts for yourselves, folks, because I only kind of read about them. But, whenever kind of you hear that thing about, oh, why didn't we take their guns, blah, 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 I kind of hear the same kind of argument coming out is, well, if we would have taken their guns, we would have been violating their rights in some way
I'm not
beforehand.
saying. Well, I'm not saying that anything like maybe even if there was anything that could have been done preemptively, right, to this group or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like you allow civilized people to operate within the bounds of the laws of society until they start breaking those laws.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? And at some point when you're breaking laws, it has to be dealt with. We can't have a lawless society. We can't have a society where anybody goes around burning or breaking anybody's stuff. It's like,
but I mean,
you can't say that it's okay because it's under the umbrella of opposing shitty ideas. That's not justified, in my opinion.
well, no, I mean, okay, let me not drag your point too far off. I mean,
Right,
really
because I'm
what
not
you're
worried about the
saying
punishment side of it.
Really, what you're saying is they should have let Milo come and talk.
Peacefully protest. I'm 100%. I would have been 100% okay with people doing that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So,
But not the looting, the rioting, and all the stuff that they did.
okay. I
You know
can
what I'm
respect
saying?
that. I mean, I can respect that. And they should have.
And they should have
That's
protested.
what we would have wanted
You know
to
what I'm
see.
saying? Yeah.
But I think kind of going back to something you mentioned, kind of the second half of that question that we still never kind of got around to, was that. I mean, we
Well, these are the more radical elements of the left. Ultimately, these are the kinds of groups that are being bred. by
But I mean, are they
leftist
really
ideologues.
that much? Are they really that radical compared to what the right is breeding? Like, I'm not saying it makes it right. I'm not saying that makes it correct.
Well,
That the right
I don't
also
equate
has,
I don't equate marching with tiki torches and screaming blood and soil to rioting and burning and looting.
well, I mean, what do
What's
we know?
worse, Richard Spencer and guys saying that, well, it should only be white people here. Okay, that's shit. That's a very bad idea, right?
Sure, yeah,
Like
that's
that's a very
ridiculous.
bad idea, and it's ridiculous. We can't have a white ethno state. It's too diverse. This country's too diverse, and we benefit from diversity in this country.
Of
But
course.
you also, but on the left, you have the people on that extreme saying, well, we think we're justified in opposing this other idea on the right, so much so that we should be allowed to engage in criminal activity and destroy people's property and take lives and beat people up because we're so opposed to it and we're so justified in that opposition. And I don't find myself agreeing with that whatsoever. I mean, I don't know.
You know,
That's,
at some point, somebody has to just get fucking sick of it, right?
right,
Like,
but
are we not to that point? And I mean, I mean, obviously, I'm the liberal in the room.
well, those
but,
guys
I mean,
had what,
at
a
some
few hundred
point-
people. That thing in South Carolina, it was like a few hundred people, right?
At some point, I feel like we have to understand that, you know, if we're not going to get our political ideas heard through regular means,
Right.
that being elections. I mean, Hillary Clinton won by 3 million votes. Why isn't she president?
Well, it's,
Who knows?
if
But
you're questioning that, then you
and
don't
so-
know how the electoral college works.
well, I'm questioning that because I feel like the way the electoral college works is bullshit. Which gets me to my last point. How much time do we have left, boys? What's the time on the clock? As long as I want.
We could. Well,
All right.
I understand what you're saying. It's just that my whole thing that I just wanted to stand on was like you have bad ideas in different pockets and corners of society. All societies have it's groups of people that have bad ideas.
Let me just jump on that already and say I feel like equating the bad ideas of the left as being equivocal to the bad ideas of the right is absolute lunacy.
You're
And I
right,
think
because they're
that-
way worse.
You know, the right,
They're
the ideas
absolutely-
on the right are fucking garbage and need to be flushed down the toilet where they belong. And
Okay,
I say that because
maybe the ideas on their merits, yes, but the way in which the left is going about trying to convince people of their ideas.
well, how's the right going around? Fox News, like
they're
let's just
saying
fucking
things.
poison
They're
it slowly.
using words. They're using
They're using the
public
electoral
forums.
college. They're using gerrymandered maps everywhere. They're using
Yeah,
like
that
these.
sucks,
They're
and
using
that
these
sucks.
political
Yeah.
methods that have literally left the left with no recourse. You know,
Well,
I
we
mean,
had
what
a-
is
we
the
just
left
got the-
supposed to do? Whine harder?
What was
we're
that?
already
44
We're
was-
already. Hang on, I'm talking. We're already the laughing stock of politics because we are, as the left, kind of understood to be the pussy party.
Because like when you start learning about systems, everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
All white people are racist, all men are misogynistic, all cisgender people are transphobic, all members of a majority are biased against the members of the minority or oppressed group. In fact, most people are racist, misogynistic, transphobic, ableist, etc.
Right? I mean, we've all seen the video on.
Well, it seems like identity
from news.
politics is more
My
important.
turn. We've all seen the video on YouTube from Newsroom, where Jeff Daniels, the big funny guy from Dumb and Dumber,
Yeah.
is giving the speech about how nobody likes liberals only because they lose. So what's that to say? Like, we have good ideas, we have a problem communicating them, and we lose elections. That's why nobody likes us, and everyone's like, yeah, fucking right.
Well, just
But-
let me know how many points you need to make before I get to talk again.
Doesn't okay, just a few more.
Okay.
But
Okay.
so understanding, or no, obviously that's a story.
No,
But I mean,
I agree with some of that.
yeah, there are some facets of truth to
Yeah.
it, right? So when you get to that point, where does the the fact that the right gets kind of just baseline political clout for being the right, and like, where do liberals really get in there? Because I mean, let's just look at, okay, just as a final point. Remember Obama and like the fact that
Who was our president for 8 years, by the way?
there were, yeah. Anybody heard of it? Yeah, have you heard of this?
Yeah, have you heard about this guy?
Obama
Yeah.
film?
Yeah, he was reelected.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that there was a whole year where he had the legal right to appoint a Supreme Court justice, and it was denied to him because of pure politics. Like, there's no reason that he was not able to appoint a Supreme Court justice other than pure politics. And you know what happened? And I think Obama's biggest failing is that he tried to reach across the aisle too much. He tried to reach across. He tried, like the ACA, pretty much a Republican plan, according to the Washington Post. So, I mean, it's pretty much a Republican plan that he tried to bring over because he had an idea and he had to cross the aisle because the Republicans were better at talking or whatever. But, you know, they're honestly, like, you're saying that, like, the left doesn't compromise. Well, let's look at the entire 8 years of Obama's presidency and say the left's problem is that they don't compromise? Bullshit.
No, the left's problem is that they burn and loot and destroy shit when they don't get their way.
Okay, the crazies, but I mean, that's not Obama.
And the ones that you're bitching about on the right are the craziest of the right, right?
No,
And
they're the
what's their
politicians.
what's their
They're
craziest
that's
behavior?
That's Jeff Sessions.
Right.
You know, those are the people that have been elected that are stonewalling and playing party politics only because.
Not really talking about just the politicians, though, too.
Well, I am now. Like, I've started on that. So, but I mean, like I said, the idea that the left are somehow extreme, I would say it's only because they have literally been left with no other choice. And no, I don't want people to have to loot and riot and hurt people.
Yeah.
But
I think that's my main
you get
objection.
to a point where that's all that you have left. If you don't listen to somebody, and you don't listen to somebody, and you don't listen to somebody, then eventually you get to the point where they are going. Remember, A Bug's Life. You know what happens? Those grasshoppers came in and fucked with the ants, and fucked with the ants, and fucked with the ants, until the ants finally rose up against them. And it was violent.
Yeah.
Like, they had to, like, fuck around with them and make a fake bird
Right.
and, like, all this shit. But it's not like, I mean, what are we upset that the ants finally got to that point, or are we upset the grasshoppers pushed them there?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that riot, though, was about gerrymandering and Obama being
It's a
blocked to Supreme
metaphor.
Court. No, but what I'm saying, though, this was a response to people, to the guy saying things to people about certain groups of people that certain groups of people found offensive. It's about offense. It's about hurt feelings. It's about
Well, can't we get offended?
Yes, you can, but you don't get to destroy and hurt people and take people's property when you don't like what somebody has to say to you.
Well, what do you think?
That's
people
what
who-
it was about.
What do you think people who get offended? What do you think their problem is? They got hurt. They had a problem.
They wouldn't even let the guy talk. They just knew what he had said before. They
Well,
just knew things he had said
That's
before.
because he's fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, but, regardless of what the guy's actual positions
I
are
know.
on things, that's fine. Like, yeah, I agree
But,
that
I mean,
that what he was
okay.
talking about was not, I mean, the thing he had some pretty horrible, things he was saying. I
But,
get,
mean,
I
don't we
totally
get to a point like what if
understand
Berkeley
that.
would have? Okay, let's obviously go to the analogy with black people. What if Berkeley had brought on a Ku Klux Klan member? Like here comes the Grand Poobah of the Ku Klux Klan. I think that's what that chucklefuck is called. And so
Something like
he's
that,
going to roll in there and give a speech. Should there be riots then, or should we just say, well, we invited
KKK, neo-Nazi.
Those people don't like me,
Are you
to be
like
honest.
the hipster version of the neo-Nazi movement?
It's Pepe's become kind of a symbol.
Well, he's
him
not
to speak.
Well,
so
it depends on
it's
if a
the same
person.
thing.
Well, free speech is only free until there's incitement of violence. So yeah, if somebody's inciting violence, that's a little bit different. This guy
But
wasn't.
it's still not free speech. It's not the government coming in and saying they can't do something. It's people.
I just still don't agree that people have the right to do those kinds of things, though. In response to somebody simply getting up on a stage and saying things that they just simply don't agree with. Now, if the guy was getting up there and saying, "Hey, hang them all, get them out of here, get them out of the country, kill them all where you find them," stuff like that, yeah, don't let the guy get up there and say stuff like that. It's like
Sure.
yelling fire in a crowded
Okay.
theater or something like that.
Okay.
That's not cool.
I respect that.
But it not just like, hey, you know, we have these statistics that are saying that there's a disproportionately amount of these color people committing crimes in the country, and this group of people over here doesn't like it, and we're saying this about this group of
Okay.
people, and blah. That's not speech that you could go around silencing.
Okay, my only point on that, my only counterpoint to that would be, don't you think those people who wanted to riot have those feelings? Like, don't you think that they are offended, or do you think they're just acting? Like,
You can be offended, but you don't have
Okay.
a right. You don't have a
So-
right to not be offended.
so they felt offended enough by this man's presence that they were willing to go out there and cause damage and riot.
Yeah.
Like, they got pushed to that point because they
Use it
feel
as an
bad.
excuse to say that they were justified in doing those
Well,
things. Yes.
okay, so why do you have to remove that from them? Why can't they just be pissed off? Like, why are you comfortable saying that they were legitimately pissed
Okay,
off?
so then why couldn't they have just taken it out in the form of a peaceful protest?
We don't know if they've tried. Like, we obviously know that the bullshit went down, and maybe they. I mean, if we okay, so let me just ask this.
No, I get where
If
I
we
get what
were
you're
to
saying.
find out
Yeah.
that these people did petition Berkeley that they didn't want Milo to come here, and if they
Right.
did find out that these people started with a peaceful protest,
Right.
and then something went down, and what if we even found out that, okay, so really fringe conspiracy kind of thought here is, what if there were people who were in that crowd who were only there to fuck shit up? Like, have you ever been to Reddit, the website Reddit?
Yeah, I'm pretty
And you
sure
know
there's
the,
probably a lot of malcontents that were just there
Yeah.
to cause problems and
So, I
stuff.
mean,
That's
yeah,
pretty, that's
so,
yeah.
I mean,
and,
yeah,
that, and
they're-
that's wrong too. That's just as wrong as the
well,
rest
that's
of it.
wrong. But if those people were there, assuming that there was a good likelihood, well, let's not even assume that. Let's just say that, would you be willing to change your position if it were to be found out that there were malcontents there and the riots were mostly, completely, or at all started by people who were only there to fuck shit up?
Well, first, what do you think my position is? Because you.
Well,
have,
I think your position feels like it is your position feels like that they should have let Milo come and talk and shouldn't have done anything, and it makes the left extreme nut jobs to have rioted in that fashion. Therefore, it discredits their position.
not do nothing. They have. I mean, you have things that you can do. You can peacefully protest.
Sure.
You can assemble.
Yeah.
To show your objection
Yeah.
to things happening in the public square.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's always a possibility in this country. But you also have to be open to the possibility that your protest might not accomplish the goal that you're setting it out for it. Just because you don't get your way doesn't then justify you to move on to violent means when it's not in response to something nonviolent.
And that's again, I've
And then-
never
but
really
what do you
followed
want- what
Milo
would you-
that much, but obviously the people who felt that strong about him not being there feel slighted about him,
Of course.
like they feel offended by him.
Of course.
So so there's only room for one offense. Like, I can be offensive, but whenever
No,
somebody
there's-
comes to stop me from being offensive, then it's too much.
Right. No, there's room for all kinds of offense in this country. That's why we have a Bill of Rights. You don't have a right to not be offended. Somebody can do something that slights you in a way, as long as they're not injuring you in some fashion. You don't have any recourse to just shut down their speech. That's what I keep trying to get across, is that, yes, you're saying that the right to free speech only impinges on the government's basically non-ability to infringe upon your right to speak and say the things that you want to say, as long as you're not inciting violence or screaming fire in a crowded theater or whatever. But it also applies to other civilians as well. One civilian can't say to another civilian, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to crack you in the face so you don't say it anymore. You can't. That's not something that's allowed under the code of our laws in this country.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And that's basically, to me, that's what it felt like, is that it was one group's response to act violently because another person or another group had offensive things to say, and that, to me, isn't a valid justification for that. Links. So we have a link to, if you guys subscribe to the channel. We have a Patreon page if you guys want to kick in and give us some love on Patreon. Anything that you guys are able to kick down to us helps us to make the show better. And so we've been here with Lance, and he's been nice enough to have a conversation with us about some a little bit more emotionally charged stuff this time. So appreciate him coming on and talking to me. And I think it was good. It got heated, and that's what we usually like to do. So, and yeah, we're gonna cool off. So, like I said, links in the description below to Patreon and all the other stuff that we do. We do T-shirts and we have merchandise. So, show us some love. Thanks. See you guys next time.